The medical bay of the Valorian research vessel was cold and white, with smooth walls that seemed to glow from the inside. Everything was perfectly clean, perfectly organized, and perfectly lifeless. Dr. Teo had worked in this same medical bay for 300 years, and he had never seen anything that made his 4 eyes go wide with wonder. Not until today. Ji-won sat on the examination table, her dark skin looking almost bronze under the bright lights above. She had come to the ship as a human ambassador, part of the first real contact between Earth and the Valorian civilization. The Valorians had been studying the humans for 6 months from a distance, and now they wanted to understand their biology more closely. Ji-won had agreed to the medical examination because she wanted to show the aliens that humans had nothing to hide. Dr. Teo moved around her slowly, his 4 eyes scanning every part of her body. His eyes were large and black, set in his oval face in a way that let him see everything at once. His skin was blue-gray, and thin lines ran across his forehead like old rivers on a map. He wore a white coat that covered his entire body, and his long fingers moved with careful precision as he used his medical scanner. "Please remain still," Teo said in his voice, that sounded like wind moving through a tunnel. His words came out slowly, as if he was thinking about each one. "The scanner must read your complete biological structure." Ji-won tried not to laugh. She had been sitting still for an hour already, but she understood that the doctor was being very serious about his work. Everything the Valorians did was serious and careful. They were a species that never took risks, never moved fast, never acted without a complete plan. This was why they lived so long. This was why they had built such amazing ships and cities. The scanner made a soft humming sound as it moved along Ji-won's back. That was when Dr. Teo stopped. All 4 of his eyes focused on the same spot on her left shoulder blade. His hand came up and he used one long finger to trace an invisible line on her skin. "Interesting," he said quietly. "What?" Ji-won asked, not moving. She did not remember any problem with her shoulder blade. "This mark," Teo said, and his voice had changed. It had become excited, which was strange because Valorian doctors were never excited. "This is a scar, an ancient scar. The cellular damage pattern indicates that this wound occurred at least 500 Earth years ago, perhaps longer. The healing patterns are very unusual." Ji-won felt a small smile cross her face. She had almost forgotten about this scar. It was just a pale line on her skin, barely noticeable if you did not know where to look. "That's not 500 years old," Ji-won said, trying to keep her voice calm. "I'm only 28 years old. The scar is much younger than that." Dr. Teo's 4 eyes blinked in a pattern that looked like surprise. When Valorians were confused, they blinked 2 eyes at a time, one pair and then the other. This was happening to Teo right now. "This is impossible," he said slowly. He ran his scanner over the scar again. The machine beeped and made charts appear in the air above Ji-won's shoulder. All the charts showed the same thing: very old damage, very old healing. "The evidence is clear. The wound is ancient. Yet you say you are young." "I got this scar in middle school," Ji-won explained. She could see the confusion growing in the doctor's face. "I fell off the monkey bars in the school playground. I was trying to do a trick to impress my friend Jesus, and I did not hold on properly. I fell backward onto a bench made of metal. The metal was old and rough, and it cut my skin when I landed on it." Dr. Teo made a sound that might have been a gasp, or might have been nothing at all. His long fingers shook a little as he moved the scanner again. "You were deliberately climbing on equipment designed for small humans?" he asked. "In a location meant for children?" "Yes," Ji-won said simply. "It was a playground. That is what playgrounds are for." "And you fell from this height?" Teo gestured upward with one hand, estimating. From approximately 3 meters above the ground? About that, yes, Ji-won agreed. She was beginning to understand that the doctor found this very strange. But I was young. I was tough. Kids are tough. The doctor walked to a seat that seemed to rise from the floor automatically. He sat down slowly, as if his legs could not hold him anymore. His 4 eyes all focused on Ji-won at the same time, a thing they usually did not do. The wound became infected, Teo said, reading from the charts in the air. His voice had become very quiet. I can see the markers from multiple infections. Your immune system fought them separately, one after another. The healing took many weeks. You were damaged and you healed, and you were damaged again and you healed again. This should have killed you. It was just a scar, Ji-won said. She felt strange hearing about her own body in such serious language. It healed up fine. I barely even think about it. Dr. Teo stood up again. He walked to the far wall where there was a large window looking out at the stars. Earth was out there somewhere, small and blue, far below them in the distance. The Valorian doctor stared out at it for a long time without saying anything. Tell me something, Ambassador Ji-won, he finally said without turning around. How old are your species when you become full-grown? 18 or so, Ji-won said. Some people grow a little faster or a little slower, but around that age is normal. And before this age, you experience pain, injury, disease? Of course, Ji-won said. She still did not understand why this was so strange. It's part of growing up. Everyone gets hurt sometimes when they're a kid. Most people have scars. I have another one on my elbow from roller skating. And I broke my arm when I was 10. And I got really sick once with the flu. She could not see Teo's face, but his shoulders had become very still. When Valorians became very still, it usually meant they were thinking about something important and strange. You survived a broken bone? He asked. Deliberately, in a recreational activity, you put yourself in danger of exactly this kind of damage? It was just roller skating, Ji-won said. She almost laughed, but she stopped herself. The doctor was genuinely shocked. Everyone does it. It's fun. The doctor turned around. His 4 eyes looked different now, as if he was seeing Ji-won for the first time, as if she had just become a puzzle that he did not understand. Your species is remarkable, he said quietly, or perhaps very foolish. I am still determining which one is true. He came back to the examination table and looked at the old scar again. The pale line of skin seemed to mean something completely different to him now. It was not just a mark. It was proof of something. Proof that humans could be hurt and still survive. Proof that humans could be broken and become whole again. I must study this further, Teo said. This is not normal. This should not be possible. Yet here it is. Here you are. Ji-won felt the weight of his attention. For the first time since coming to the Valorian ship, she realized that the aliens might find her species very strange indeed. Not advanced or impressive, but strange. Different in ways they did not expect. The examination continued, but everything had changed. Dr. Teo asked her questions now, many questions, about her childhood and her injuries and the scars she carried, and with each answer, his eyes grew wider, his movements slower, as if he was discovering something that would change the way he thought about the entire universe. By the next morning, the entire Valorian ship was talking about the human scar. News traveled fast in a community of only 300 intelligent beings living together in the same vessel. Dr. Teo had sent a detailed report to the senior staff, and the report had spread to everyone else. What had started as a simple medical examination had become something much bigger. The human was not just interesting. The human was impossible. Ji-won discovered this when she walked into the dining area for breakfast. Every Valorian in the room turned to look at her. Their 4 eyes all pointed toward her at the same time. She felt very small and very visible. Ambassador Chris, who was the leader of all the Valorian scientists on the ship, stood up from his seat at the long table. He was older than Dr. Teo, with deeper lines across his forehead and skin that had faded to a lighter blue. "Ambassador Jiwan," he said formally. "Thank you for coming. We have been discussing your medical report. We have many questions." Jiwan sat down at the table. Food was already waiting for her, small dishes of things that tasted like nothing she had ever eaten before. The Valorians liked to eat in silence, one piece of food at a time, with long pauses between each bite. Jiwan had learned to do this too, though it always felt very slow. "Your previous injury was sustained during a children's climbing activity," said Zara Min, who was the chief archaeologist on the ship. She was young for a Valorian, only 100 years old, with sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. This activity was designed for small humans to do without adult supervision. "Yes," Jiwan said. "That's what playgrounds are. Kids play there while parents watch from nearby." "And you sustained a laceration that created an infection that required your body's immune system to fight multiple pathogens," Zara Min continued. "Without modern medical intervention, this type of wound often resulted in death for your species in earlier times, correct?" Jiwan had not thought about it this way before, but it was true. On Earth, in the past, a wound like hers could have killed her. "Yes," she said. "If I had lived a long time ago, the infection might have killed me. But I lived now, and I had antibiotics if I had needed them. I did not really need them, though. My body fought it off." The Valorians looked at each other. This was their way of communicating without words, a thing they had done for thousands of years. Their eyes would move and shift, and they would understand each other perfectly. "This is extraordinary," said Crendo, who was the biologist studying human evolution. "Humans are not biologically superior to other species. Yet you survived an injury that should have been fatal. Your species must have evolved in a very dangerous environment." "Earth is not that dangerous," Jiwan said. She was beginning to see that they did not understand humans at all. "It is actually pretty safe for modern humans. I got hurt because I was being careless, because I was young and did not think about the danger. Kids do this kind of thing all the time." "All the time?" Zara Min asked. Her eyes widened. "You mean frequently? Every young human experiences near-fatal injuries?" "Not exactly near-fatal," Jiwan tried to explain. "But yes, most kids get hurt pretty often. I had another scar on my elbow from roller skating, and I broke my arm in 3rd grade, and I got a concussion playing field hockey when I was 13. She could see the shock on all their faces now. They were not reading her words anymore. They were truly hearing what she was saying for the first time. "You experienced head trauma," Dr. Teo said slowly. His voice had become very small. "Brain injury. And you are here, speaking to us, having thoughts and memories. This is not possible." "It was not that serious," Jiwan said. "A lot of kids get concussions. We play sports, we roughhouse, we do dumb things. That is just part of growing up." Crendo stood up and walked to the wall where there was a computer. She touched the surface and charts appeared in the air, medical data from Jiwan's examination. She pointed at different sections, asking questions that came faster and faster. "Is your species in constant pain? Do you experience regular trauma? How do you maintain mental stability with repeated brain injury? Why has your civilization not been destroyed by this constant rate of injury?" Jiwan tried to answer the questions, but she was starting to feel tired. The Valorians wanted to understand everything at once. They wanted to know about every scar, every broken bone, every illness that humans experienced as children. She told them about diseases that killed humans in the past. She told them about children playing in dangerous places. She told them about accidents, about falls, about getting hit with balls in games, about infections, about fevers, about the many ways that being young could hurt. The more she talked, the more quiet the Valorians became. By the time she finished eating, the entire dining area had gone silent. All around her, the blue-gray aliens were staring, their 4 eyes glowing softly in the dim light. "You are warriors," Ambassador Chris finally said. "Your entire childhood is a trial by combat with your environment." "No," Jiwon tried to correct him. "We are just regular people. We are not warriors. We are doctors, teachers, artists. Most humans work in offices. We spend time with families. We read books and watch shows, and you have survived injuries that would destroy most sentient species," Zaramin interrupted. "And you act as if this is normal, as if this is nothing important." That was when Jiwon realized something. The Valorians did not have children. She had read about this before coming to the ship, but it had not made sense to her. The Valorians were born as adults, fully grown and fully conscious, coming from genetic machines in underground vaults. They had never been small. They had never been weak. They had never fallen off a playground and gotten a scar. "I think I understand now," she said quietly. "You are afraid of injury because you have never had to survive it. You were born already strong and already careful. So when you see humans who got hurt as kids and survived, it seems like magic to you. But it is not magic. It is just that our species learns to be tough because we have to be." The Valorians did not respond. They just looked at her, their 4 eyes seeing something they had never expected to find. In that moment, on a ship floating above Earth, the alien civilization and the human civilization began to understand that they were very, very different from each other. And that difference, it seemed, might be the most interesting discovery of all. The interviews began 3 days after the breakfast conversation. Dr. Taiyo wanted to understand everything about Jiwon's childhood injuries. He had made a special room for the interviews with comfortable chairs and soft lighting. It looked nothing like a medical examination room. It looked more like a place where friends would sit and talk. Jiwon found herself spending entire days with the doctor, telling him stories about being a child on Earth. The more she talked, the more interested he became. His questions moved from medical topics to personal topics. He wanted to know about the emotional side of being hurt. He wanted to understand what it felt like to be young and injured and scared. "Tell me about the first time you broke a bone," Teo said, sitting across from her with a recording device floating between them. "Tell me everything you remember." Jiwon closed her eyes and thought back to her 3rd grade year. She had been 8 years old. "I was playing baseball," she said. "It was during school. We were learning about the game in physical education class. I was not very good at baseball. I was not very good at most sports." She smiled. "I was a clumsy kid, but I wanted to impress my teacher and my classmates. When the ball came to me, I tried to hit it hard. I was holding the bat wrong, though. When I hit the ball, the bat flew backward and hit my arm instead of the ball going where I wanted." "The bat struck your arm," Teo repeated. "With force. Intentionally?" "No, not intentionally," Jiwon said. "It was an accident, and then my arm hurt very bad. I remember crying. I remember going to the hospital and getting x-rays. And I remember the doctor telling my mother that my radius was broken. That is one of the bones in the arm." "And then?" Teo asked. His 4 eyes were completely focused on her. "Then they put a cast on my arm," Jiwon continued. "I had to wear it for 6 weeks. It was very uncomfortable. I could not write with my right hand. I could not play sports or go swimming. But the bone healed. After 6 weeks, I got the cast off, and my arm was fine. It still works perfectly." Teo was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "Were you afraid that your arm would not heal? That you would be damaged forever?" Jiwon thought about this. "Yes," she admitted. "When it first happened, I was very scared. I thought something was seriously wrong. But my mother told me that breaks heal, and I believed her. I had seen my father heal from a broken ankle before. I had seen my friend Hai Su recover from a broken leg. So I knew that bones could break and then heal. You had this knowledge from observation, Teo said. You had seen it happen to others. Yes, Jiwon said. That is how children learn. They see things happen to their friends, and they know that if it happens to them, they will probably be okay. Dr. Teo stood up and walked to the wall. There was a window there, just like the one in the dining area, showing the stars and the earth far below. He looked out at his own face reflected in the glass. I have lived for 437 years, he said without turning around. In all of that time, I have never broken a bone. I have never experienced pain like you describe. When I was young, already adult, already conscious, I learned how to be careful. I learned how to avoid danger. I learned how to live in such a way that injury would not happen to me. But what if it did? Jiwon asked. Then I would be damaged, Teo said simply. And there would be no healing. Because my kind does not heal from major injury. We do not regenerate. We do not bounce back. We fail, and we are gone. Jiwon felt something cold move through her when she heard this. The Valorians did not have the ability to fully heal from serious injury. That was why they were so careful, so risk-averse, so afraid of anything that could damage them. That is why you were so shocked by my scar, she said. Yes, Teo said, finally turning around to face her. When I examined you, I saw a wound that suggested you had experienced something your species should not have survived. Yet here you are, not only surviving, but growing stronger because of it. This is something my civilization has lost. Over the next week, Teo interviewed Jiwon more and more. He asked about her illnesses as a child. She told him about chickenpox and the flu and strep throat and all the other common diseases that children on Earth caught and recovered from. Your immune system learned to fight real pathogens, Teo said with wonder. You were not protected from all danger. You experienced real disease and you survived. He asked about falls and bruises. She told him about the time she fell off her bicycle and scraped her entire side. She described the pain and the fear and how she had gotten back on the bicycle a week later because she did not want to be scared anymore. You faced your fear, Teo said. You experienced pain and fear, and you chose to do the same thing again. He asked about social hurt, emotional pain. This was harder for Jiwon to talk about. She described being left out at birthday parties, being made fun of for being too tall, having her first heartbreak when a boy she liked did not like her back. Your species experiences psychological damage alongside physical damage, Teo said, and you must learn to heal from both at the same time. By the end of the week, Teo had filled multiple databases with information about Jiwon's childhood. He had created a complete medical history, not just of her injuries, but of her emotional development through those injuries. Late one evening, when Jiwon was very tired from all the talking, Teo asked her one final question. Do you regret these injuries? He asked. Do you wish they had never happened? Jiwon thought about the scar on her shoulder blade, the broken arm, the concussion, all the falls and scrapes and illnesses. She thought about the fear she had felt, the pain, the recovery. She thought about how each injury had taught her something about herself and about life. No, she said finally. I do not regret them. They made me who I am. They made me brave. They made me able to handle difficult things. If I had never been hurt, I do not think I would know how strong I am. Dr. Teo did not say anything for a long time. He just sat there, his 4 eyes looking at the human woman with a new kind of understanding. Your species, he finally said, may be the most advanced civilization I have ever encountered, and you do not even realize it. 2 weeks after the first interview, Dr. Teo requested a meeting with Ambassador Chris and the other senior Valorian leaders. The conference room was large, with a long table made of a material that looked like glass but felt like metal. Teo stood at one end, with thousands of documents floating in the air around him. All of these documents contained information about humans and their childhood injuries. Ji-won sat at the table too, but she was not there to speak. She was there to observe, to see what the Valorians would do with all the information they had gathered. She was nervous. She did not know if she had made a mistake by telling Teo so much about humanity. "I have completed my analysis of human biological development," Teo began. His voice was formal now, the voice of a scientist presenting important information. "I have examined the data from Ambassador Ji-won's medical examination, combined it with historical records from the human civilization, and applied it to what we know about Valorian biology. What I have discovered is remarkable." He touched a control, and a document appeared on the large screen behind him. It showed a comparison of Valorian and human physiology, with explanations below each image. "Humans are born extremely vulnerable," Teo continued. "They cannot survive without adult care for many years. They cannot walk or speak or control their own bodies. They are dependent, weak, and helpless. This is very different from Valorian birth, where we emerge complete and capable." Ambassador Chris nodded. This was already known. "However," Teo said, his voice becoming stronger, "during the period of dependence and development, the human body undergoes remarkable changes. It learns. It adapts. When faced with injury, human tissue does not merely heal. It heals stronger. When exposed to disease, the human immune system does not simply survive. It learns to fight that specific disease again." He showed images of scar tissue, explaining how it was actually stronger than regular skin in many ways. He showed information about how human immune systems became more effective with each infection survived. He showed data about how human children who experienced falls learned to fall better, to protect themselves better, to move through the world with more awareness. "The human species is not strong because of their bodies," Teo said. "The human species is strong because they learn through adversity. Every scar, every break, every illness, every injury is a lesson. And these lessons make them better. This is something we have not observed in other species. This is something we have lost in our own civilization." The conference room became very quiet. Zaramin, the archaeologist, leaned forward. "What do you mean we have lost this?" she asked. "I mean," Teo said carefully, "that for many thousands of years, we have protected ourselves from danger so completely that we have stopped learning how to adapt. We are biologically incapable of regenerating from major injury. Because we never take risks, we never get injured, so we never develop the psychological understanding that injury can be survived. We have become afraid of damage because we cannot recover from it. But humans have become brave through damage, because they can recover from it." Crendo, the biologist, stood up. "Are you suggesting that human psychology is superior to ours?" "I am suggesting that human psychology is different," Teo said, "and that this difference makes them resilient in ways we cannot understand. When humans face danger, they know from experience that they can survive it. They have proof. When Valorians face danger, we have no such proof. We have only fear." The discussion went on for hours. Some Valorians agreed with Teo. They saw the logic in what he was saying. Other Valorians argued that safety was more important than resilience. Why would a species deliberately accept injury when they could avoid it? But the most interesting moment came when Teo showed them recordings of human children playing. He had downloaded hundreds of videos from Earth's internet, videos of kids playing in playgrounds, riding bicycles, playing sports, climbing trees. In every video, the children took risks. In every video, some of them fell. In every video, they got back up. And then he showed recordings of Valorian children, because the Valorians did have something similar to children, though they did not use that word. They called them young consciousness beings, Valorians who had been conscious for less than 100 years. These young beings did not play. They did not take risks. They were educated in controlled environments. They learned through careful instruction, not through experience. When Tao put the human videos and the Valorian videos side by side, the difference was shocking. "The humans are learning joy," Tao said quietly. "They are learning connection. They are learning that they are stronger than they believed. The Valorians are learning caution. They are learning fear. They are learning that the world is dangerous and must be avoided." Chris sat very still. His 4 eyes were all looking at the same spot on the table in front of him. "You are saying that we made a mistake," Chris said slowly. "Thousands of years ago, when we chose safety over experience, you are saying that we lost something important when we stopped being children." "I am saying," Tao replied, "that we lost something. Whether it was a mistake depends on what we do now." Jiwan watched this exchange quietly. She had not expected the Valorians to understand so quickly. She had thought they would argue more, defend their way of life more strongly, but instead, they seemed to be genuinely considering what Tao was saying. After the meeting ended and the other Valorians had left, Tao approached Jiwan. He sat down across from her, and for a moment they just looked at each other in silence. "Thank you," he said finally. "Thank you for being honest with me. Thank you for telling me about your scars." "You are welcome," Jiwan said. "But I do not think I did anything special. I just told you about my life." "That is exactly what you did," Tao said. "You showed us that our way of thinking about injury and risk and safety might not be the only way, or the best way. You showed us that there could be strength in being hurt and healing. There could be wisdom in taking risks. There could be value in being a child." He stood up to leave, but then he turned back. "The Valorian High Council will want to speak with you," he said. "They will want to ask you many questions about human development. They will want to understand how we might apply these lessons to our own civilization. Are you willing to help them learn?" Jiwan nodded. She did not fully understand what Tao was asking, but she sensed that something important was beginning. Something that might change the way the Valorians thought about themselves. The Valorian High Council had made a decision. After 5 days of discussion and debate, they had decided to bring Jiwan to their home world. They wanted her to speak to the entire Valorian civilization about human development and human resilience. They wanted to understand, not just from data and documents, but from a living human being, how their species had learned to survive and thrive through adversity. The journey to the Valorian homeworld took 3 days of travel through space. Jiwan had never been outside the ship before. She spent most of the journey looking out the windows at the stars, thinking about everything that had happened in the past few weeks. A simple medical examination had turned into something much larger. She had become a teacher, an example, a bridge between 2 civilizations that were learning to understand each other. The Valorian homeworld was beautiful. It was not blue and green like Earth. It was gray and silver, with enormous cities built into the ground and the mountains. The cities seemed to glow from within, as if they were made of light instead of stone. Everything looked perfectly organized, perfectly clean, perfectly safe. The council had built a special place for the talks. It was an amphitheater, a round building with seats that rose up from the floor in circles. Thousands of Valorians came to listen. They filled the seats completely, their gray-blue skin catching the light, their 4 eyes all focused forward. Dr. Tao introduced Jiwan to the crowd. He explained who she was and why she was there. Then he stepped to the side, and Jiwan was alone in the center of the amphitheater, looking up at thousands of alien faces. She took a deep breath and began to speak. "I am human," she said. and her voice carried through the room somehow without a microphone. The Valorians had technology that made this possible. I am from a small planet far from here, called Earth, and I am here to tell you about what it means to grow up human, what it means to be young and weak and scared, what it means to be hurt and to heal. She told them about her scar on her shoulder blade again, but this time she told it differently. She did not just describe the injury. She described the fear she had felt when she first hurt herself. She described sitting in the medical room with her mother, waiting for the doctor. She described the pain of the infection, how her whole shoulder felt hot and wrong. She described the slow healing, how she had learned to use her shoulder again, how she had slowly become brave enough to climb and play again. I was 8 years old, she said, and I learned a lesson that day. I learned that my body could be hurt, but it could also heal. I learned that pain was not permanent. I learned that being scared was normal, but that I could do scary things anyway. She told them about other injuries. The broken arm in 3rd grade, the concussion in 7th grade, the time she had gotten lost in the mountains and had to walk for hours with a twisted ankle. Each story was different, but they all had the same pattern: injury, fear, pain, recovery, learning, growth. On Earth, she said, every child experiences these things. We do not have perfect safety. We do not have a system that protects us from all danger. So we learn early that danger is a part of life, and we learn that we are strong enough to face it. A Valorian in the front row raised a hand. Teo had explained that this was how they asked questions during talks. When you were hurt, the Valorian asked, did you not feel that your civilization had failed you, that you should have been protected? Jiwon thought about this carefully. No, she said. I felt that my civilization had prepared me. My parents had not wrapped me in protection so complete that I could not move. They had taught me how to move carefully, how to look for danger, how to minimize risk. And then they had let me live. They had let me play. And yes, I got hurt sometimes, but I also learned. And that learning made me strong. Another question came, and then another. The Valorians asked about her emotions, about her relationships with other humans who had been hurt, about how human society had built strength through shared experience of pain and recovery. As she talked, something began to change in the amphitheater. The Valorians' posture shifted. Their eyes began to move differently. They were starting to see something in the human that they had not seen before, not just a curiosity, not just a study. A person who was strong because she had survived, and who believed that survival through difficulty was possible, was valuable, was important. At the end of the talk, the council asked Jiwon if she would stay for a while longer. They wanted to observe her more closely. They wanted to understand not just her words, but her way of being in the world. They wanted to see if there were ways that her human nature could teach them something new. Jiwon agreed. She did not have to return to Earth immediately. Her mission, she realized, was just beginning. That evening, Teo took her to a place on the Valorian world that very few humans had ever seen. It was a garden, hidden in a deep valley between mountains. In the garden were plants and animals and flowing water. It was the only place on the Valorian world that was not controlled, not organized, not perfectly safe. It was wild. We created this place long ago, Teo said as they walked through it, to remember what we were before we built our cities, before we chose perfect safety. Now very few Valorians come here. They say it is dangerous. They say the plants are unpredictable. They say the animals might hurt them. A small creature with 4 legs ran across their path. It was not hostile, just curious, wanting to see what they were. A Valorian who had been with them in the garden immediately moved away, afraid. But Teo did not move. He watched the creature with a look on his face that Jiwon had not seen before. It looked almost like love. "I came here once," he said, "when I was a young consciousness being. I was not supposed to come here. It was forbidden. But I wanted to see what danger felt like. I wanted to understand what it meant to risk something." He paused. "I ran from the creatures. I fell on the rocks. I cut my hand. It was the first time I had been hurt in my entire life." He held up his hand, and Jiwon could see a faint line of pale skin, a scar that was barely noticeable. "I have kept this scar," Teo continued, "for 300 years, and I have never told anyone about it, because our civilization does not scar. Our civilization does not remember pain. But I wanted to remember. I wanted to keep proof that I had been brave enough once to come here and take a risk." He looked at Jiwon with his 4 eyes full of something that might have been gratitude or might have been wonder. "You do this every day," he said. "Every human child does this. You come into a dangerous world and you are not afraid. Or you are afraid, but you do it anyway, and you carry the marks of it, the scars, the memories, and you are proud of them. You are proud of being hurt because it means you were brave enough to live." Jiwon looked at the scar on his hand, so faint it was almost invisible, and she understood. The Valorians were changing. Slowly, perhaps. Carefully, perhaps. But they were changing. And it had started with one human, and one old scar, and one question about what an ancient wound might mean.